My father texted me a picture of himself and my mother standing outside my townhouse and wrote, "We're here." It was the first time they had come to my door in 6 days. And by then, I already knew they had not come for their daughter. They had come because I had stopped paying. My parents skipped my house for a week and posted smiling photos at my sister's. Then Mom said, "Don't act needy, Mara. You don't even have kids." I locked every card, canceled every payment. Hours later, Dad texted, "We're outside." 6 days earlier, I was still foolish enough to believe love could be reheated if you kept it covered in foil. My name is Mara Whitaker. I was 36 years old, living alone in a narrow brick townhouse in Charleston, South Carolina. The kind with the black shutters, a tiny front porch, and a kitchen window that caught the late afternoon sun like a blessing. I worked as a project coordinator for a company that restored historic hotels. My job was to notice what other people missed: hairline cracks in marble columns, water damage behind plaster, old permits tucked inside county archives, the quiet signs that something beautiful had been neglected for too long. I was good at that work. What I was not good at was admitting I had become one of those neglected things. My parents, George and Elaine Whitaker, lived in Dayton, Ohio. Dad had once been a construction consultant, the kind of man who could look at a sagging porch and tell you exactly which beam had given up first. But work had slowed down over the years, and pride had slowed him down even more. Mom had retired early, not because she was helpless, but because her blood pressure and joint pain gave her enough reason to say she needed less stress. Then there was my younger sister, Kelsey Donovan. Kelsey lived 30 minutes outside Charleston with her husband, Mark, and their 2 kids, Tyler and Emma. In our family, Kelsey was always overwhelmed. Kelsey had school pickups, Little League, grocery bills, dental bills, childcare bills, and 1,000 tiny emergencies that somehow always landed in someone else's lap. I was the opposite. I was independent. That word sounded like a compliment until my family turned it into a locked door. When I was lonely, Mom said, "You're strong, honey." When I was tired, Dad said, "You've always handled yourself." When Kelsey needed help, everyone looked at me like my paycheck had been born with a family obligation attached to it. For 4 years, my parents had missed every Thanksgiving invitation, every Christmas dinner, every birthday I tried to make sound casual so rejection would hurt less. Then one Tuesday morning, Mom called. "Mara, your father and I were thinking," she said, bright as church bells. "Maybe we should fly down and spend a few days with you." I stood in the lobby of the Wickham Hotel, staring at a restored staircase from 1892, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. "With me?" I asked. Mom laughed softly. "Of course with you, sweetheart." I bought their round-trip tickets that afternoon. I paid for checked bags. I rented them a mid-size SUV so Mom would not have to complain about ride shares. I bought white roses, fresh sheets, a new coffee blend Dad used to like, and enough groceries to feed people who, I told myself, had finally remembered I existed. The first night, I made pot roast the way Mom used to make it when I was little, with carrots, onions, and potatoes soft enough to fall apart under a fork. I baked a lemon pie because Dad always said restaurant pie tasted like sugar wearing perfume. I set the table for 4. 4 plates, 4 glasses, 4 folded napkins, 1 vase of white roses in the middle. When their plane landed, Dad called from baggage claim. "We're going to swing by Kelsey's first," he said. "The kids are about to jump out of their skin." I smiled because that was what good daughters do before they learn better. "Sure," I said. "I'll keep dinner warm." Hours passed. The pot roast cooled. The candles burnt low. The lemon pie sat untouched beneath a glass dome. At 8:47 p.m., Mom texted, "Kids begged us to stay for dinner. Tomorrow, sweetheart. I read it twice. Then I looked at the table I had dressed like a promise. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming. I wrapped the pot roast, slid the pie into the fridge, and stood there with one hand on the cold handle longer than I needed to. I told myself not to be dramatic. Older people got tired after flights. Children needed grandparents. One night did not mean anything. But deep down, in the part of me that had been keeping records long before I opened a spreadsheet, I knew something had already been signed. Not on paper, on my heart. The next morning, I woke before 6 and made coffee strong enough to talk myself out of feeling foolish. Charleston was gray outside my kitchen window. I buttered biscuits and scrambled eggs the way Mom liked them. I told myself one missed dinner was not a verdict. Older people got tired after flights. Children got excited. Good daughters gave grace. At 8:12, I texted Mom. "Good morning. I'm making brunch here. Come over whenever you're ready. No rush." She sent back a heart. For a while, that heart kept me standing. 10 o'clock passed, then 11. By noon, the biscuits had gone cold. No call, no apology, no, we're on our way. Then Kelsey posted. The photo showed all of them at a seafood restaurant on Shem Creek. Dad had Tyler on his knee, both laughing. Mom held Emma against her side. Kelsey sat across from them in sunglasses, smiling like the whole trip had been planned for her. The caption read, "Best surprise visit ever." Under it, Mom had written, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." My mother had missed Christmases with me, Thanksgivings, birthday dinners I had tried to make sound casual so she would not hear me begging. But she would not miss lunch with Kelsey. I called Dad when I could trust my voice. He answered on the 4th ring. I heard silverware, children laughing, and Kelsey saying, "Tyler, don't dip your fries in that." "Hey, Mara," Dad said. "Everything all right? I was wondering if you and Mom were still coming over today." A pause. "Well," he said, "today's getting full. Your mother's worn out, and Kelsey's place is easier with the kids." "I rented you a car," I said. "My house is 30 minutes away." "I know, honey, but you understand. Your sister's got a lot going on." There it was. The family hymn. Kelsey had a lot going on. I had untouched food and a heart trying not to make noise. "I thought this trip was to see me," I said. Dad sighed, tired in a way that made me feel like an unexpected bill. "We are seeing you, Mara. We're in the same city." For a second, I could not speak. How do you tell your own father that being in the same city is not the same as sitting across from your daughter? "Maybe tomorrow," he said. "Let's play it by ear." "Sure." The word came out clean and empty. After we hung up, I packed the eggs away and threw out the biscuits. I hated how they looked, waiting for people who had already eaten. That afternoon, I stood in the guest room doorway. Fresh sheets, extra towels, aspirin in a basket because Mom loved thoughtful things. By evening, Kelsey posted again. Tyler held a shark. Emma wore Mom's reading glasses. Dad grinned. I did not cry. Not yet. I only turned off the kitchen light and whispered, "Same city." By the 3rd morning, I had learned how to make an invitation sound smaller than it felt. I stood inside the Whitcomb Hotel, beneath a chandelier wrapped in protective cloth, watching 2 carpenters measure the hand-carved railing in the main lobby. The building smelled like old pine, dust, and polish. It was the kind of place Dad would have loved before life taught him to answer every offer with a sigh. I sent Mom a photo of the lobby. "Dad might like this. The original woodwork is still here. I can give you both a quick tour this afternoon." She replied 20 minutes later, That sounds lovely, honey. We'll see. Kelsey has Tyler's Little League thing, and Emma's been clingy with Grandma. We'll see. In my family, that meant no, but dressed up for church. Still, I waited. I checked my phone between calls with contractors. I imagined Dad running his palm over the banister, telling me the grain was old-growth oak. I imagined Mom asking if the hotel had a tea room. I imagined, for once, introducing them to a part of my life that was not a payment app or a favor. At 3:36 p.m., Kelsey posted a photo. Dad was crouched in her kitchen with a screwdriver in his hand, fixing a loose cabinet handle. Tyler stood beside him, holding the screws like a tiny assistant. The caption said, "Nothing like having Dad here." I stared at that picture until the screen dimmed. It was not the cabinet handle. That was the humiliating part. I was not jealous of hardware. I was jealous that my father had noticed something loose in her house. My own kitchen drawer had stuck for 8 months. The hinge on my back gate shrieked every time the wind moved it. There was a water stain near the upstairs vent I had meant to ask Dad about someday, if someday ever came. I did not need him to build me a deck. I did not need him to solve my life. I just wanted proof that when Kelsey and I were both in the same state, I did not disappear. A few minutes later, Kelsey texted me. "Hope you don't mind. The kids just miss them so much." I looked at those words and could almost hear her soft little shrug. "Of course," I typed back. "Enjoy." It was a lie polite enough to pass in any southern grocery store aisle. That evening, I stayed late at the hotel. The crew had uncovered a crack near one of the marble columns, thin as a thread but running deeper than it looked. I knelt beside it and brushed dust away with my thumb. Some damage did not announce itself loudly. Some damage waited under polish and good manners until someone finally looked close enough. On the drive home, Charleston glowed gold around me. Couples walked out of restaurants. Tourists carried shopping bags from King Street. Somewhere, families were gathering around tables without making one person beg for a chair. When I pulled into my driveway, my house looked warm from the outside. Inside, it felt staged. The guest towels were still folded. The flowers were beginning to bow their heads. The lemon pie had a clean slice missing because I had finally cut one for myself and eaten it standing over the sink. I thought about Dad on Kelsey's kitchen floor. A loose handle had gotten more attention than my whole life. And for the first time, the sadness in me began to harden into something with edges. By the 4th day, I had stopped saying the food was for my parents. I told myself the table looked nice. That was all. 4 plates, 4 glasses, white roses bending at the stems, napkins folded into neat little triangles like good manners could hold a family together. At 6:15, June Hollis knocked once and came in the way only old friends can. "I brought barbecue," she called from the hallway. And before you argue, yes, I got the cornbread. June was 52, divorced twice, and allergic to nonsense. She had silver in her dark hair, red lipstick on most days, and the kind of eyes that could read a room faster than most people read headlines. She stepped into my dining room and stopped. Her gaze moved over the plates, the untouched water glasses, the roses, the extra chair pulled slightly away from the table, as if someone had almost sat there. "Oh, Mara," she said quietly. I tried to laugh. "What?" She set the takeout bag down. "This table looks like a funeral." The laugh died in my throat. I wanted to tell her she was being dramatic. I wanted to say, Mom and Dad were just busy with the kids. I wanted to defend the same people who had left me defending an empty room for 4 days. Instead, I turned toward the kitchen. "Do you want tea?" "No," June said. I want you to sit down before you fold yourself into a napkin." So I sat. We ate pulled pork, coleslaw, and cornbread from paper containers because I could not bear to scrape another family meal into storage bowls. June did not fill the silence with pity. That was one thing I loved about her. She let truth walk in barefoot. Halfway through dinner, my phone lit up beside my plate. Kelsey had posted a story. I should not have opened it, but pain has a strange appetite. Sometimes it wants to see the knife. There they were at a minor league baseball game. Dad wore a River Dogs cap. Mom had on a navy hoodie, one arm around Emma, the other holding a paper tray of fries. Tyler leaned against Dad with a pretzel bigger than his face. Kelsey's caption floated across the screen. "Spontaneous family night." June reached over and turned my phone face down. "Mara," she said, not gently, "you paid for them to fly here." I stared at the barbecue sauce on my fork. "You rented them a car," she continued. "You cleaned this house like the governor was coming. You cooked for them. You've helped them for years. And now you're sitting here watching them use your money, your time, and your hope to make memories at Kelsey's house." My eyes burned, but I kept them open. "I don't want to be cruel," I whispered. June leaned back in her chair. "Setting a boundary is not cruelty. It only feels cruel to people who were comfortable with you having none." The house went still around that sentence. Outside, a carriage rolled past on the street, horse hooves soft against the evening pavement. Somewhere down the block, tourists laughed like Charleston had never broken anyone's heart. I looked at the fourth plate. For years, I had believed love meant making room, making excuses, making payments, making sure nobody had to feel bad for needing me. But June was right. There was a difference between being generous and being erased. After she left, I did not clear the table right away. I stood in the dining room, looking at the plates like evidence at a trial no one had agreed to attend. Then I picked up my laptop, not to cry over old photos, not to reread Kelsey's posts. This time, I opened my bank statements. At first, I only meant to look at the last 3 months. That was what reasonable people did, I told myself. Reasonable people did not sit alone in a dining room at midnight, digging through years of family favors like they were searching for bones. But one statement led to another, then another. Soon I had my laptop open, my bank app pulled up, and a legal pad beside me with June's half-finished cornbread still sitting in its paper tray across the table. January 2022. $480 toward Mom and Dad's mortgage because Dad had a slow month. March 2022. $136 for Mom's pharmacy refill because she said the insurance portal was acting strange. June 2022. $600 for Dad's truck repair. September 2022. $210 for Kelsey's after-school deposit because Tyler couldn't lose his spot. The list kept growing. Not in big, dramatic numbers at first. That was the trick. A family does not always drain you with one flood. Sometimes it leaves the faucet running for years and tells you the sound is love. There were grocery deliveries to Dayton, roadside assistance, a streaming bundle Dad said he barely used but somehow never canceled, dental work for Tyler, a summer art camp for Emma, a car insurance gap, a temporary mortgage shortage that appeared again 3 months later with a different explanation and the same tired sigh. I made a spreadsheet and named it Family Support Final Record. The word final sat there looking colder than I felt. I added columns: date, amount, recipient, reason, account used, proof. At first, my hands shook. Then something in me settled. Numbers did not cry. Numbers did not say I was too sensitive. Numbers did not tell me Kelsey had 2 children and I had freedom. By 1:08 a.m., the total was staring back at me. $63,210. I sat very still. That number did not include the plane tickets for this trip. It did not include checked bags, the rental SUV, groceries, flowers, fresh sheets, or the lemon pie sitting in my refrigerator like a joke with a glass cover. $63,210. For years, I had called it helping. Looking at it all at once, I saw what it really was. A second household I had been quietly funding while eating dinner alone in my first. Then I noticed the stranger charges. A deposit for a beach rental in Hilton Head. I clicked it twice, as if the description might apologize and change. It did not. There was also a furniture order delivered to an address near Kelsey subdivision. A dental payment larger than anything she had mentioned. Another charge tied to a children's activity center I did not recognize. My throat tightened. I had been careless because I had trusted them. Kelsey would text, "Just as once, sis." Mom would say, "Help your father breathe easier." Dad would grumble that he hated asking, which somehow made me feel guilty enough to send more. No one ever asked what I was giving up. No one asked if I was tired. At 1:42 a.m., I found an email buried in an account folder I rarely checked. It came from a company called Palmetto Family Education Finance. Subject line, payment plan reminder. I opened it. The message thanked me for being the responsible party on an after-school payment plan for Tyler and Emma Donovan. Responsible party. The words blurred. I had paid plenty of things out of guilt, love, and old family training, but I had never signed that. I read the email again, slower this time, until the house around me seemed to go thin and quiet. A coldness moved through me that had nothing to do with hurt feelings. This was not a forgotten dinner. This was my name, my credit, my life. And someone in my family had reached for all three. I called Palmetto Family Education Finance at 8:03 the next morning, before coffee, before makeup, before I could talk myself into being patient. A woman named Patricia Langley answered with the smooth voice of someone trained to stay calm while other people fell apart. "How may I help you today?" "My name is Mara Whitaker," I said. "I received an email saying I'm the responsible party on an education payment plan for Tyler and Emma Donovan. I need a copy of whatever you think I signed." There was typing on the other end. "Yes, Miss Whitaker, I see the account." "I didn't open that account." Another pause, shorter this time. "Our file shows electronic authorization completed 3 months ago." "Then your file is wrong." The words came out sharper than I expected. Patricia did not argue. She asked me to verify my address, my date of birth, and the last 4 digits of my social security number. Each answer made my stomach sink. They had all of it. Patricia said she would send the PDF contract to the email on file. I told her not to. I gave her my real email and asked her to read the one attached to the account. It sounded almost like mine. Almost. One extra letter tucked into the middle. One tiny lie wearing my name like a borrowed coat. When the PDF arrived, I opened it at my kitchen counter. There I was, Mara Whitaker. My Charleston address, my birthday, the last 4 of my social. A digital signature at the bottom that looked close enough to mine to make my skin crawl. I gripped the counter. 2 years earlier, Mom had asked for a photo of my driver's license after Dad's fender bender. She said the insurance adjuster needed it because I had helped arrange the roadside coverage. Another time, she needed the last 4 of my social security number to verify a pharmacy billing issue. Kelsey had once asked me to sign a school pickup permission form because I was listed as an emergency contact. Little pieces. Harmless, I had thought. Family, I had thought. What phone number is listed for verification? I asked Patricia when I called back. She read it out. Kelsey's. I did not move. Outside my window, a delivery truck rode past. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. The world kept behaving like nothing had changed, but something had. Patricia explained that I could dispute the account in writing. I would need a copy of my ID, a sworn affidavit, and a statement saying I did not authorize the contract. If I suspected identity theft, I could file a report and request a temporary pause on collections while they investigated. She sounded kind. That almost made it worse. Because kind strangers were now explaining protections my own family had made necessary. After we hung up, I printed the contract at the little desk near my stairs. The pages came out warm, one by one, like evidence breathing. I placed them beside my spreadsheet. $63,210 was no longer the worst number in front of me. The worst number was Kelsey's phone number, sitting inside a contract with my name on it. For the first time all week, I did not wonder whether I was overreacting. No one accidentally builds a fake door with your key in it. I opened a new folder on my laptop and named it Evidence. Then I saved the contract inside. Mom called at 4:18 that afternoon while I was standing in the lobby of the Whitcomb Hotel, staring at a marble column our crew had spent 2 weeks repairing. The crack had been ugly when we found it. Not dramatic, not the kind people photographed, just a thin gray line running under old polish. Easy to miss if you wanted to miss it. "Mata, sweetheart," Mom said, a little too bright. "Tonight may not work after all." I closed my eyes. Kelsey promised the kids a movie night. Emma already picked out the popcorn bowls, and you know how little girls get. I looked at that restored column and thought of all the weight it had carried while people walked past calling it beautiful. "Mom," I said, "why aren't you staying with me?" The silence that followed was small but sharp. "Well, honey, Kelsey's house is just easier. More room. The kids need us. And you've always been so independent." And there it was, the word they used like a broom, sweeping me out of every room where I might have needed care. "I paid for your flights," I said. "I rented the SUV. I bought groceries. I made dinner. I invited you every day." Mom sighed, not sad, annoyed. "You're making it sound like we abandoned you." I stared at the marble until my reflection blurred in it. "Didn't you?" On the other end, I heard Kelsey's voice floating through the background. "Mom, are you still on the phone? The kids are waiting." Mom lowered her voice. "We'll talk later, honey." Then she hung up. For a few seconds, I stood there with the phone in my hand, surrounded by men repairing a building that had been treated with more respect than I had. When I got home, I did not cook. I did not light candles. I did not take the pot roast out and pretend tomorrow would be different. I sat on my dining table, opened my laptop, and wrote an email. To George Whitaker, Elaine Whitaker, Kelsey Donovan, Mark Donovan. My hand shook on the first line. By the third, they stopped. I wrote that I had paid for this trip because I believed my parents wanted to spend time with me after 4 years of missed holidays and postponed visits. I wrote that they had chosen to stay at Kelsey's house and declined every invitation I made. I wrote, "I respect your choices. I am now making mine." Then I attached the spreadsheet. Family support final record, $63,210. I listed what would stop immediately: mortgage transfers, pharmacy payments, roadside assistance, streaming services, grocery deliveries, childcare expenses, school activity fees, dental bills, and any account where my card had been treated like a family utility. I wrote that I had found charges in one electronic contract I did not authorize. From that moment forward, Any discussion involving money, accounts, or signatures had to happen in writing. Then I added the line I needed for my own soul. I am not canceling access to essential medication. I am removing my card only after confirming that Mom has her own payment method on file. I was angry, but I was not cruel. There is a difference. Before sending it, I walked into the dining room and took a picture of the table from that first night. 4 plates, 4 glasses, white roses drooping in the center, a room prepared for people who never arrived. As I attached the photo, my phone lit up. Kelsey had posted again. Mom and Dad sat on Kelsey's porch under a blanket, sipping wine like retired movie stars. The caption read, "Soaking up every last minute." I looked at those words for a long time. Not one of those minutes had belonged to me. So I clicked send. For 10 seconds after I clicked send, nothing happened. No thunder rolled over Charleston. There was only my dining room, my laptop, and the blue confirmation that the email had gone. Then my hands started moving. I called the bank and canceled the automatic mortgage transfer to my parents' account in Dayton. The woman on the line asked if I was sure. Yes, I said, effective immediately. Next came Mom's pharmacy account. I took screenshots first. Her own debit card was already listed as a backup. Mine had simply been charged because it was easier for everyone to let it be. I removed my card. I did not cancel her prescriptions. I only stopped paying for medicine a grown woman could pay for herself. Then I canceled Dad's roadside assistance, the streaming bundle he forgot I funded, and the grocery delivery account. After that, I called my credit card company. I need this card locked and replaced, I said. There may be unauthorized family-related charges. By 7, I had changed passwords on my bank, email, pharmacy login, credit monitoring service, and phone account. I turned on 2-factor authentication everywhere. At 7:41, Dad called. For most of my life, George Whitaker's name on my screen had made me answer. I let it ring. Mom called next, then Kelsey, then Mom again, then Kelsey 5 more times, as if persistence could still pass for authority. Mark called once. He did not leave a message. If you're listening now, leave a like and tell me in the comments what Mara should do next. Should she forgive, fight, or walk away? Stay close, because the truth behind that contract is still waiting in the dark. Then the text began. Dad, what is this email supposed to mean? Mom, Mara, call me right now. Kelsey, are you seriously doing this while Mom is here? At 8:16, Kelsey sent a picture of Mom on her porch, wrapped in a blanket, eyes red. She's sobbing, Kelsey wrote. Hope your little spreadsheet was worth it. Little. That word made me laugh once, without joy. $63,210 was little only to people who never had to earn it back. I typed one reply. Tell Mom I set a table for her every night. She knows what was worth missing. Then I put the phone face down. The plates went into the cabinet, the glasses went onto the shelf. The napkins went into the laundry. The roses went into the trash. For the first time since my parents landed, the table was clean. By midnight, Dad had left one voicemail. This is not how family behaves, Mara. For years, family had meant I paid quietly, waited quietly, hurt quietly. That night, for the first time, my silence belonged to me. By morning, my phone looked like it had survived a small natural disaster. 12 missed calls, 7 texts. One voicemail from Dad played twice while my coffee brewed. This is not how family behaves, Mara. I stood in my kitchen in bare feet, watching steam rise from my mug. That sentence would have broken me the week before. It would have sent me running to apologize, to explain, to soften the truth until everyone else could swallow it. But the table was clean now. And clean tables tell the truth. I called him back at 8:30. Mom answered on speaker before Dad could say hello. Mara, you need to fix this. No good morning. No, are you all right? No, we should have come over sooner. Just fix this. Did you read the email? I asked. We all read it, Mom said, including your little list. Little list? I looked at the printed spreadsheet beside my laptop. Page after page of payments I had made while telling myself love did not keep score. It was $63,210, I said. Dad cleared his throat. No one asked you to make it sound ugly. You asked me to make it invisible. Silence. Then Dad found the voice he used when a contractor had given him bad news he could not afford. You're punishing us because we stayed where it made sense. You were 30 minutes from my house, I said. I invited you every day. Kelsey needed help with the kids. And I needed my parents. The words came out before I could dress them up. They sat there between us, plain and embarrassing and true. Mom made a wounded sound. That's not fair. What part? You know your sister's life is harder. Tyler has games, Emma gets anxious, Mark works long hours. You don't have children, Mara. You don't understand real family duty. For a second, the room tilted. There it was, not hidden under sweetness, not tucked inside a request, just the belief itself, standing in daylight. Because I did not have children, my time was extra. Because I lived alone, my home could stay empty. Because I earned my own money, everyone else could spend it in the name of family. I gave a small laugh. It did not sound like me. So my money was real, I said, but I wasn't? No one answered. Then the practical panic began. Dad said the mortgage draft was due soon. Mom said her refill was coming up next week. Kelsey, shouting from somewhere in the background, said the after-school payment had already been budgeted. Budgeted. As if my bank account had become a room in her house. I confirm Mom has her own card on the pharmacy account, I said. I am not discussing anything else by phone. Dad's tone hardened. Mara, don't be dramatic. I was dramatic when I set a table for 4 people who never came, I said. This is paperwork. Mom started crying then, but it was the angry kind of crying, sharp around the edges. We can come by after lunch, Dad said suddenly. If that's what this is really about. I closed my eyes. After lunch. After the email. After the card was removed. After the mortgage stopped. You found time when the money stopped, I said. Dad exhaled. That is a cruel thing to say. No, I said. It's a precise thing to say. Mom snapped my full name like a judge with a gavel. Mara Whitaker. We flew all the way down here. I know, I said. I paid for it. The line went quiet enough for me to hear my own breathing. I ended the call before they could turn my boundary into another family meeting where I was both defendant and checkbook. A minute later, Kelsey texted. Mom is sobbing. I hope this was worth it. I typed back slowly. Tell Mom I cried alone beside that table all week. She knows what was worth missing. Then I muted them all for 24 hours. Not forever, just long enough to hear myself think. I kept my family muted until the next afternoon. Not because I felt calm. I did not. Calm is too clean a word for what sat in my chest. I felt organized. There is a difference. I had printed the contract from Palmetto Family Education Finance. I had highlighted the fake email, the digital signature, and Kelsey's phone number. I had put sticky notes on every page like I was preparing for a meeting with strangers instead of my own blood. At 2:12, I called Dad. I wanted one simple answer. Who gave Kelsey enough information to put my name on that contract? The line clicked open, but no one spoke. Dad? I said. Nothing. Then I heard chairs scraping, a cabinet closing. Mom's voice, low and frightened. She can't just cancel everything, George. You told me you had this under control. My fingers tightened around the phone. Dad answered from somewhere farther away. I thought she'd be happy we came down. I thought that would settle her. Settle me? Like I was a dog barking at the fence. Then Kelsey's voice cut through, sharp and thin. Well, it didn't. And now I can't cover after school this month because I already put money down on the Hilton Head rental. The room around me seemed to shrink. Hilton Head. That strange charge on my card. The one I had clicked twice, hoping it would become something else. Kelsey kept going. If you and Mom had spent less time making her suspicious and more time keeping her sweet, she wouldn't be digging through everything. I stopped breathing. Keeping me sweet. Not loving me. Not visiting me. Managing me. Mom hissed, Kelsey, lower your voice. The silence fell all at once. Someone had noticed the call. A second later, Dad's voice came through the speaker, too loud. Mara? Yes, I said. He did not ask how much I had heard. Men like my father knew better than to ask questions they feared answering. You shouldn't have heard that, he said. I know, I replied. That's what made it honest. No one spoke. Then Mom came on, soft now, the way she sounded when she wanted my anger to feel like a sin. Honey, emotions are high. We should all sit down and talk like a family. Where? I asked. Another pause. Well, Kelsey's house is probably easier. The kids have their routine, and your father doesn't like driving at night. I laughed once. It was not loud. It was not kind. Even their apology wanted me to come to the house they had chosen over mine. No, I said. Mara, Dad warned. If you want to talk to me as your daughter, you can come to my house. If you want to talk about money, there's nothing left to discuss. Kelsey snapped something in the background, but I could not make out the words. Mom said, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." That line did something to me. For years, they had made my life harder and called it family. They had made my loneliness quieter and called it maturity. They had made my bank account easier to reach than my heart. I'm not making it harder, I said. I'm making it accurate. And then I hung up. For a while, I stood in my kitchen with the phone still in my hand. Outside, late sunlight hit the brick wall across the alley. The city looked ordinary, almost gentle. But I knew what I had heard. The dinners, the ball game, Little League, movie night, all those sweet little family moments Kelsey had posted like postcards from a happy life. They had not just been careless. They had been cover. June did not ask if I wanted to go out that night. She showed up at 6:40, wearing gold earrings and the expression of a woman who had already decided. Get your purse, she said. I'm not really in the mood. That is exactly why we're leaving. She drove me to a small jazz place on King Street, the kind with low lights, brick walls, and tables close enough that strangers had to be polite. A trumpet player stood near the corner, sending slow blue notes into the room like smoke. I had texted Mom and Dad earlier. I'm not available tonight. Any discussion can happen by email. It felt strange, announcing my absence like it mattered. June ordered shrimp and grits for herself and a bowl of she-crab soup for me. I stirred it until the spoon made tiny circles that went nowhere. You're waiting for them to make you feel guilty, she said. I'm waiting for myself to fold. June looked at me over her water glass. Then don't. At 8:16, my phone lit up. Dad. A picture came through first. He and Mom were standing on the sidewalk outside my townhouse. Dad had one hand in his jacket pocket. Mom's face was turned away from the camera, but I could see her shoulders hunched under her cardigan. Then came the text. We're here. Your mother's crying in the car. My body reacted before my mind did. I reached for my purse. June put one hand on the table, not grabbing me, just reminding me there was a table here too, and someone added who had actually shown up. Mara, she said quietly. I stared at the picture until the screen blurred. The old me was already halfway home. The old me was warming leftovers, apologizing for being difficult, opening the door with wet eyes, and calling it healing, because I was too hungry to call it timing. But the new part of me, small and shaking, asked a different question. Why tonight? Why not the first night, when the pot roast was hot? Why not the morning I made brunch? Why not any hour before the payment stopped? Dad texted again. Please don't do this to your mother. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because even standing outside my house, they had made the locked door about her pain. I typed slowly. I told you I was not available tonight. I cried alone beside that table all week. I hope you both have a safe flight tomorrow. My thumb hovered over send. June said nothing. That was her gift. She let me choose. I sent it. Then I turned my phone face down beside my plate. For the next 10 minutes, I tasted nothing. The soup could have been rainwater. My hands trembled in my lap. I was not proud in some shiny movie way. I was sick with it. But I stayed. The trumpet player moved into a softer song. June told me about a terrible date she once had with the man who brought coupons to an anniversary dinner. I smiled because she wanted me to remember the world was bigger than my family's disappointment. When I finally picked up my spoon again, it felt like lifting a weight. Mom and Dad did not text after that. Maybe they stood there a while. Maybe they drove back to Kelsey's angry. Maybe Mom cried for real. I did not know. What I knew was this. For the first time in my life, my door stayed closed without me standing behind it begging to be loved. The lock did not feel cruel. It felt honest. The next morning, my parents flew back to Ohio. No goodbye breakfast, no stop at my townhouse, no hug on the porch where Mom had supposedly cried the night before. Just a text from Dad at 9:07. Heading to the airport, I looked at those 4 words while standing in the guest room I had prepared for them. The bed was still made. The towels were still folded. The little basket of aspirin, lotion, and travel-sized toothpaste sat untouched on the dresser. For 6 days, my parents had been 30 minutes away. They had held Tyler at a ball game, eaten seafood with Kelsey, watched movies in her living room, fixed her cabinet handle, and wrapped themselves in blankets on her porch. They had come to my door only after the money stopped. And when the door did not open, they left. That should have broken me. Instead, it clarified things. By noon, I stripped the guest bed and washed sheets no one had slept in. I returned the unused coffee. I threw away the last of the roses. I did not do it with rage. Rage would have been easier. I did it carefully, like I was closing a file. 3 days later, my phone buzzed while I was at work. Credit monitoring alert. I opened it in the hallway outside a conference room, expecting some routine notice. It was not routine. A payment connected to Palmetto Family Education Finance had been reported as past due. The account was still tied to my name. If unresolved, it could affect my credit score. I leaned against the wall and read the message again. In America, your credit is not just a number. It follows you into mortgage applications, car loans, insurance rates, rental checks, sometimes even job screenings. I had spent my adult life building mine carefully, one paid bill at a time. Now Kelsey's lie was reaching for that too. I forwarded the alert to June. She called within a minute. "You need a lawyer," she said. "I know." "No, Mara, not later. Not after you feel less guilty. Now." By 4 o'clock, June had given me the name of Abigail Reed, a civil attorney who handled financial disputes and family messes polite people pretended were misunderstandings. Abigail's office was above a bookstore downtown. She wore navy, spoke calmly, and did not widen her eyes when I told her the story. That made me trust her. Drama feeds on shock. Law feeds on proof. She read the contract, the spreadsheet, the fake email, the phone number, and the screenshots from Kelsey's posts. "I'm not calling this criminal yet," she said. "Not without the full record. But if someone used your personal information without permission, we may be looking at financial identity fraud. First, we protect your credit. Then, we preserve evidence." For the next hour, she gave me steps: written dispute, copy of my ID, sworn affidavit, fraud alert, temporary credit freeze, request for audit trail from Palmetto. No phone arguments, no emotional confessions, everything in writing. I wrote it all down. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, but it did not look like a place of waiting anymore. It looked like a command center. I created folders by date, bank records, family text, social media screenshots, contract documents, credit alerts. At 11:30, I uploaded the affidavit draft Abigail had sent me. One sentence near the bottom caught my eye. "I did not authorize the use of my personal information for this account." I read it aloud. My voice shook on the first word. By the last, it did not. Kelsey waited exactly 2 days before taking the fight online. At first, it was small. A quote on her Facebook page about how some people get a nice job and forget who raised them. Then a photo of mom holding Emma with the caption, "Protect the people who protected you." I saw both. I screenshotted both. I did not reply. That silence must have bothered her because the next post was not subtle. It was long enough to need paragraphs and vague enough to feel safe to someone who did not understand what a good lawyer could do with a screenshot. She wrote about an unnamed sister who had cut off our mother's medication out of spite. She said that same sister had abandoned elderly parents after they flew across the country. She hinted that this sister worked around hotel money and contracts, so maybe moving numbers around comes easy to her. She did not use my full name. She did not have to. By lunch, a woman I knew from a preservation committee texted, "Mara, is everything okay? Saw something strange online." Then Mr. Bennett, my supervisor, asked if I could step into his office. He was a careful man, gray-haired, polite, and impossible to rattle. Still, I could see discomfort in the way he folded his hands on the desk. "I don't mean to pry," he said, "but there seems to be a personal matter touching your professional reputation. Anything we need to be aware of?" My face burned. That was the part Kelsey wanted. Not just my money, not just my guilt. She wanted me embarrassed in rooms where I had earned respect. "It's a family financial dispute," I said. "There is an attorney involved, and the claims being made are false." Mr. Bennett nodded. "All right, keep records." "I am." And for the first time that week, saying it made me feel steadier. I sent the post to Abigail. Her reply came back in less than 10 minutes. "Do not engage. Preserve everything. I'll draft a letter." That afternoon, Abigail Reed sent Kelsey a cease and desist letter. The letter was not loud. It did not need to be. It stated that Kelsey had published false and damaging claims, including the accusation that I had deprived our mother of essential medication. It demanded that she remove the post, stop contacting my workplace or professional contacts, stop publishing misleading statements, and cooperate regarding the unauthorized education payment plan. At 5:32, my phone lit up. Kelsey. I let it ring. Then she called again. And again. Finally, a text came through. You're really having a lawyer threaten me? I'm your sister. I looked at the word sister for a long time. A sister would have come to my table. A sister would not have put her phone number on my contract. A sister would not set my reputation on fire and then complain about the smoke. I typed one sentence. Anything involving money, contracts, or false public claims should be sent by email. She replied almost instantly. You're destroying this family. No, I thought. I was only refusing to be the floor it stood on. That night, Mom sent no message. Dad sent no message. Mark sent nothing at all. Kelsey removed the post before midnight, but not before I saved every comment, every share, every little heart from people who had no idea they were applauding a lie. I closed my laptop and sat in the quiet. It still hurt, but hurt was no longer driving. Evidence was. Mark did not call me that night. That was the first thing that made me wonder. Kelsey called like a siren. Mom used tears, Dad used disappointment, but Mark had always been quieter. The kind of man who stood in the background holding a paper plate while other people made decisions that benefited him. I had mistaken that for harmlessness. It was not. Silence can still cash a check. The next morning, while I was reviewing contractor notes at the Whitcomb Hotel, my phone buzzed. Mark Donovan. Not a call, a text. Mara, I need to send you something. I should have asked questions earlier. I'm sorry. I stared at it until the words stopped shifting. Then came screenshots, one after another. The first was from Kelsey to Mark, dated 2 months earlier. Don't worry about after school. Mara will cover it like always. My mouth went dry. The next one was worse. If Mom and Dad spend too much time with her, she'll start asking questions. Keep the kids excited. Give them reasons to stay here. I stepped into an empty service hallway because my legs suddenly felt unreliable. There was another. She owes Mom and Dad anyway. She got the easy life. The easy life. I almost laughed right there beside a stack of paint cans and rolled blueprints. My easy life had included working 10-hour days, eating cold leftovers, paying bills that were not mine, and setting tables for people who preferred my sister's porch. Mark sent one more message. I didn't know about the contract until the letter came. I knew she asked you for money. I thought you knew what you were paying for. That's on me. I should have asked. I read it 3 times. He was not making himself a hero. That mattered. People trying to escape guilt usually arrive wearing a cape. Mark sounded like a man who had found smoke in his own walls. I typed back, "Why are you sending this now?" His reply took several minutes. Because she lied to me too. And because if this goes further, I won't say you were the problem. I stood there listening to the hotel breathe around me. Somewhere above, a drill whined. Somewhere below, workers laughed over lunch. Life continued, rude and ordinary. But inside me, something shifted. Until that moment, part of me had still been trying to make Kelsey smaller than she was. Overwhelmed, reckless, selfish, maybe careless. Those messages made her precise. Little League had not just been Little League. Movie night had not just been movie night. The seafood lunch, the ball game, the porch wine, the cabinet handle. They were not accidents. They were distractions. Kelsey had not simply taken the attention I wanted. She had managed it, scheduled it, posted it, and used it to keep me sentimental while money moved quietly behind my back. I forwarded everything to Abigail. Her answer came back quickly. This is significant. Preserve the original messages if possible. Ask Mark not to delete anything. So I did. Mark replied, I won't. Then, after a pause, another message came. I'm sorry about the table. That one almost got me. Not the legal evidence, not the confession, the table. Because it meant someone in that house had understood what they were doing, while I sat alone pretending not to understand it myself. I put the phone in my coat pocket and walked back into the lobby. The marble column we had repaired stood near the entrance, clean and steady under the light. But I knew what held it now. Not paint, not polish. Reinforcement beneath the surface. For the first time, I had some too. The audit trail arrived on a Thursday morning. I was at my kitchen table with a mug of coffee I had forgotten to drink, answering work emails before sunrise. The message from Palmetto Family Education Finance appeared with the subject line Abigail had told me to watch for. Account authorization records. My fingers went cold before I opened it. There were no fireworks inside, no dramatic confession, just pages of timestamps, device information, verification notes, and a digital path that did not care about anyone's feelings. The contract had been opened at 9:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. The email used was not mine. The verification code had been sent to Kelsey's phone number. The device location placed the authorization near her subdivision, not my townhouse. I sat there reading the same lines again and again, waiting for some part of me to feel victorious. It did not. Proof is powerful, but it is not painless. I forwarded everything to Abigail. She called 20 minutes later. Mara, she said, this is strong. I closed my eyes. Strong. There was that word again. But this time, it did not sound like an excuse to abandon me. It sounded like a door finally holding. Abigail explained the next steps. Palmetto would pause collection activity against me while the dispute moved forward. She would send a formal demand to remove my name from the payment plan. She would also send Kelsey a settlement proposal before escalating the matter. What does that mean exactly? I asked. It means your sister has a chance to fix this the quiet way, Abigail said. Repayment, written correction, cooperation, and a promise not to use your personal information again. And if she refuses, then we stop being quiet. That afternoon, the letter went out. Kelsey had to repay the unauthorized charges on a 24-month plan. She had to cooperate with Palmetto to remove my name from the account. She had to delete and correct her false post. She had to confirm in writing that she would never again use my personal, financial, or identifying information. If she refused, Abigail would move toward a civil claim and refer the identity issue to the proper authorities. By evening, the family silence cracked. Dad emailed first. Not a text, not a demand, an email. I didn't know it had gone this far, he wrote. I stared at that sentence and felt no comfort from it, because he did not have to know every detail to know I had been left out. Mom left a voicemail I did not play until after dinner. Her voice sounded smaller than usual. I don't know how to apologize without making excuses, she said, but I want to learn. I listened to it twice, then saved it. Kelsey did not apologize. She sent one furious email accusing me of choosing paperwork over blood. Abigail told me not to answer. Mark did. He wrote that he had separated their household accounts until everything was resolved. The Hilton Head rental was canceled. Tyler and Emma would move to a cheaper after-school program. He said he had told Kelsey he would not lie for her. That sentence landed harder than I expected. Not because Mark was noble, because consequences had finally entered the room. For years, my family had treated my money like a cushion under every bad choice. Now the cushion was gone. And for the first time, everyone could feel the floor. Kelsey signed the settlement 2 weeks later. Not because she had discovered grace. Not because she woke up one morning with a clean conscience and a handwritten apology. She signed because Abigail had stacked the truth too neatly for her to kick it over. The Hilton Head rental was canceled. Tyler and Emma were moved to a cheaper after-school program. Kelsey deleted her post and replaced it with a stiff little correction, saying the things she had written about her sister were posted in anger and did not reflect the full truth. It was not beautiful, but it was public. Palmetto removed my name from the payment plan after the investigation. The late mark tied to that account was corrected. My credit report, the thing Kelsey had reached for like it was a spare napkin in her kitchen drawer, was mine again. Mom and Dad had to learn ordinary math, their own mortgage, their own pharmacy refills, their own grocery bills. Dad canceled the streaming package he claimed he never watched. Mom switched her prescriptions to a mail order plan that cost less. No one starved. No one lost the house. No one collapsed in the street. They simply had to live without using me as insulation. Dad sent me a letter in the mail. Not a text, not a voicemail. A real letter, written in the blocky handwriting I remembered from birthday cards when I was small. "I used your independence as an excuse," he wrote. "I thought because you didn't ask for much, you didn't need much. That was laziness on my part, not strength on yours." I cried when I read that line. I did not forgive everything in that moment. Life is not that cheap. But I believed he had finally looked at the crack instead of painting over it. Mom's apology came slower. Her voicemail was only 32 seconds. "I don't know how to apologize without defending myself," she said. "But I want to learn. I am sorry I made you feel like the extra daughter." 3 months later, Dad emailed me. He and Mom wanted to come to Charleston again. They had bought their own plane tickets. They had booked a small hotel downtown. They were not asking for money, a ride, or a room. They only wanted dinner, if I was willing. I wrote back with conditions. No Kelsey, no money talk. No turning the meal into a trial where my pain had to prove itself again. Dad answered, "We understand." That Saturday, I set the table for 3, not 4. That mattered. I made pot roast again, but this time I did not cook it like a woman auditioning for love. I cooked it because I wanted dinner. I bought a lemon pie from a bakery on King Street, and Dad admitted, with a little shame in his smile, that it might be better than the one in his memory. The meal was awkward at first. Real repair usually is. Forks sounded too loud. Mom looked at me like she wanted to reach for my hand and was afraid she no longer had the right. Near the end, she did. "Mara," she said, "I am sorry we made you feel like a backup plan." I looked at her hand over mine. "Thank you for saying it plainly," I said. After they left, I washed 3 plates. Not 4 plates waiting for people who never came. Not 1 plate eaten over the sink by a woman pretending she was fine. 3 plates. Enough for the people who had actually shown up. I still restore old hotels. I still believe some broken things can be saved. But I also know now that restoration is not pretending damage never happened. It is clearing away rot, reinforcing the structure, and deciding which doors deserve new locks. I did not close my heart. I stopped leaving it unlocked for people who only visited when they needed something. And that was the day I stopped funding my own disappearance. Life teaches us that love without respect can quietly become a bill someone expects us to pay. If this story touched you, please leave a like for the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us where you are listening from and what you would have done in Mara's place. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. Wishing you health, peace, and the courage to protect your own heart. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next story on Revenge Glow.